On Two Wheels this week, Triumph's latest sports tourer, the ST Sprint, a visit to an XS650 specialist, and by popular request, Wayne's fantastic cricket sketch.
This is the new face of Triumph. It shares the almond-eyed headlamps of the Daytona and a few more components, but other than that, it's very, very different and very, very new. I also got it very, very dirty. So what have we got? Well, first off, we've got a lot of noise because it's the sound of the rain on this plastic roof, because we've had to come undercover because it's absolutely tiddling down out there. But forgetting that for a while and ignoring that hissing, the biggest feature of this Triumph, the thing that probably hits you first, is this massive perimeter beam frame. Aluminium sections ribbed internally to give you extra strength, and they've done that to get rid of the old steel spine frame. Remember, it used to run up from the headstock down to the bottom. You've now got a fuel injected motor, they needed more space for that, and they wanted to make it subtly different from its sexy cousins, the 509 and also the Daytona, which has got those oval tube frames. Looks very nice, but they wanted something a bit different. Also, they needed to beef it up because this bike will be used a lot for two-up touring, so by making it stronger here, you can also put a stronger subframe on. It's retained the sexy one-sided swinging arm, or should I say single-sided swinging arm, from the Daytona, so that's still there, and altogether it looks the business. Not only that, it also does the business. Coupled to top-notch show suspension, the handling is superb. Gone is that slightly top-heavy feeling of the old Sprint. This one is flickable but still rock solid. The wheelbase is 30mm longer than its cousins to aid stability and put a tad more weight over the front end, while the fork brake and trail are more leisurely, again to remove any front end twitchiness. Road holding is also spot on, with front and rear suspension beautifully matched. Mind you, it's a good job the handling is up to it, because the engine is an absolute blinder. Now this engine might look familiar and it might sound familiar, but it is very different internally. It's got cast pistons instead of forged pistons because the engine is less stressed than the Daytona. It's got steel liners in the barrels instead of a coated aluminium, which is what the Daytona's got, and again because this one is less stressed. It's got softer cams, not soft in a squidgy fashion, but a softer profile to give a broader spread of power. The electronic engine management system, that has been remapped, again to give a more flexible engine, a more rounded engine. On top of that, behind the barrels down here, it's got a suppression block. This is a block that's been moulded onto the engine to sort of dampen out any vibration and any noises and whirring from the gearbox and from the crankcase in general. Altogether, they've made it a more rounded engine. And what does all this mean? I love this engine. Along with Ducatis and the BFR, it's got character. It's a true biker's engine. You get 108 brake as against 130 on the Daytona, but, and this is where it scores, you get a juicy 72 foot-pounds of torque at just 6,200 revs. Lovely. But there's more to it than that. It's spread right through to the 9,200 red line. That translates into instant zapping. No matter which of the 6 gears you're in, it just goes and goes and goes. Effortless is one word for it, yes is another, and a much better one too. And talking about gears, what a beaut this gearbox is. Snicking in and out without a glitch, you could be forgiven for changing gear just to hear that triple howling away. The riding position is just right. A slight forward pitch, lowish footrest, and a very effective fairing. However, as a 6-foot tour, personally I'd like a slightly taller screen. But what about the other creature comforts? First off, the front forks. Adjustable for preload. They're 43mm stanchions, unlike the 45s of the Daytonas. Down at the bottom end, you've got the 4-pot Nissan calipers, straight off the Daytona, 320mm discs, no problem there. Coming back up onto the top yokes, you can see a very neat handlebar layout here with all the standard controls on the twist grip and on the clutch side. The levers are adjustable for span, as you'd expect. Switching on the ignition and looking at the dash panel here, you get a nice little row of lights there. If you put the headlight on, you can see up there the main beam warning light is very bright. Not too bad in this light, but believe me, at night that is incredibly bright and a bit of a distraction. What isn't a distraction, but perhaps should be, is the speedo. Speedo and rev counter here. Personally, I think the speedo should be there, and rev counter over on the left. A white face rev counter, dead easy to see. But at night, that speedo, especially with a red pointer, is very, very difficult to see how fast you're going. And that's the one that's going to lose your license, not the rev counter. Coming up here, a couple of gauges here, fuel gauge and temperature gauge, and you've also got a digital clock buried down in that little hole. You've also got a low fuel warning light, because a gauge is all very well, but it is nice to have that little light that's going to tell you when you're really, really low. Another neat touch, very VFR-like, is these mirrors. Fold back in either direction, so if you've got to go in a shed or between some cars, you can always fold the mirrors back. But very, very neat that with these rubber boots over it. Moving back from the front, you can see this very, very curvaceous fuel tank, 21 litres, and at 45 to the gallon you get a hell of a range. Very nice plastic tank, of course, in Triumph tradition. Nice big dual seat here, and you can see the fixing points there for a little tail hump, colour coded, clicks on there, removable, so removable that Triumph didn't give me one. You can fit pannier frames here and detachable panniers. They're colour coded as well to match the bike. Looks very, very neat. And the exhaust system, the silencer, just like a Ducati ST4, can swivel out of the way to give you clearance for the panniers, or swivel it back up for a bit of clearance for sports riding. And what you mustn't forget, and what all touring bikes should have, if not all bikes in my opinion, is a centre stand. So there it is, a fully equipped sports tourer. So that's it. 2 years on from the intro of the 595, we now have the Sprint ST, and it was worth the wait. I know what you're thinking, you raved over the VFR 800 too, so is the Triumph better? Difficult. For me, yes, because I really like that engine, but they are both so good there's very little in it. But make no mistake, this really is a Triumph for Triumph. At £7,995, it's £500 more than the VFR on Honda's special black and white deal, but it's £600 cheaper than a Ducati ST4. Difficult, ain't it?
Bike dealers, bike traders, there's loads of them, isn't there? Thousands of them all over the place. Many of them specialising in one particular make. You've got your Hondas, Kawasaki's, Suzuki's, Harley Davidson's, all sorts. But there aren't many, certainly not that I can think of, that specialise in one particular model. Well, this is such a place, Halco Tuning, just outside Salisbury, and they specialise in these Yamaha XS650s. Why? Well, I'm about to find out. And there's another one, another XS650. There's loads of them. The place is flipping full of them. I'm tripping over them. Tony Hall, XS650s. We've got hundreds of them. Why XS650s?
Well, I don't think there's any one reason why they become so popular, really. Everybody's got his own reason for wanting the machine, but really it's now recognised, I think, as one of the, maybe the few Japanese machines that have become well respected. They are a very good package. They don't really do anything exceptionally well. They're not as fast as the new machines or whatever, but they got a very, very good, infinitely rebuildable engine that you can do anything with, and the rest of the chassis is good. Not exceptional, but good. So people can obviously make what they want of the machine, and they are very much like what the old British machine perhaps should have been if they'd have carried on or maybe started with a clean sheet of paper. Right.
So what you're saying is it's probably the best sort of straight twin that you can get, really?
Yeah, there's very few machines on the same level as it, comparable. If you take away the multi-cylinder machines and you're looking for, say, a vertical twin, there isn't a lot to choose from apart from the old British stuff, which is now very dated. But this was, I think, Yamaha's first effort at doing a four-stroke, and they did get it right. In fact, they appear to have overbuilt the engine, which is why it's been so good.
Yeah, you say overbuilt because bulletproof is a term I've heard used often when people refer to these, because people bore these out to all sorts of weird
you can get them up, you can make them to over 1,000 cc if you want to, and that sort of thing, still on the basic same bottom end, and they've proved very, very strong.
But it doesn't exist anymore, Tony, this, does it? The XS. It's defunct as a model.
It is obsolete, yes.
Right, so when did it start and when did it finish?
It's had an exceptionally long run, especially for a Japanese machine, which is perhaps why there's so many of them around in various guises. They brought them into the States about 69, 70 as an XS1, which evolved into an XS2 electric starter and so on through various models. They basically ceased to be available in this country either as a standard roadster like this one or the more custom version from the factory in '81, although the Americans carried on and had them available for a following 2 years. So they've had a very long run in the basic same format, but variants of
Right, so they must have done something right then for it to last that long. But 83 the Americans stopped, 81 we stopped, is that right?
That's about right, yeah.
Right.
Different markets.
Long time ago that, you're still putting these things together and doing everything to them. Where are you getting all your bits from?
Well, to Yamaha's credit, most of the stuff that matters, the mechanical parts, are still available. I think they tend to take the attitude, if you still want to buy it, we'll still make it maybe. A lot of the chassis bits are a problem, but some of that we now manufacture ourselves or have made, depending on the demand, whether the item in the first instance works properly, whether it's perhaps too expensive or not available. Any of those factors would cause us maybe to consider whether we should be making the parts ourselves. So we managed to keep the machine rolling on that basis. They're not really, for a machine that's been out of production that long, difficult to keep on the road.
Right. But so you're making some of your own bits now. So let's have a look at some of the bits that you're making for them.
Okay, yeah, well, for example, on a machine like a roadster version as this, we'd be making our own complete exhaust system. That's largely for cost reasons. We make replacement panels, chain guards, we make a whole range of seats, some of it on cost basis, some of it on availability, or non-availability, various reasons for it. But there'll be quite a range of bits and pieces on a machine like this that we can actually now reproduce.
Tony, the XS, obviously it's popular, otherwise you wouldn't be doing this. It's providing a business for you. There's a future for it, but is there anything, well, where is the future? Are they going to fizzle out? Are they all going to break down eventually and stop going?
Well, they are. I mean, obviously we try and keep them running as a standard road machine, which is where the main demand is. But as you mentioned it, we are actually moving on now. The next step for us is to make our own frame and chassis kit to enable the people to turn this base machine into something that they really want that's different.
Right, and I believe you've got one that you've prepared earlier, as they say.
We have. Yes,
right, let's
have.
go and have a look. So look at this, fantastic looking machine. A Kenny Roberts replica XS650, if there is such a thing. Tony, it's very smart. I recognise the big lump in the middle. The rest of it looks quite different. What's going on here?
Well, it is indeed. Obviously, this is where we're going now, as I've said. This is a pickup, believe it or not, on a project done some almost 20 years ago by Norton for Yamaha. As you can see, it's based on a Kenny Roberts style flat track machine of the early 70s, when this machine was actually quite good on the tracks at that time, before the Harley Davidson basically became the machine to have. But the styling is liked by a lot of people, and we wanted to do something different. So what we've actually done here, we've gone in with a collaboration with BSA Regal at Southampton, who are responsible and manufacture the actual frame and the swinging arm. And the trick part about this is it uses a updated version, if you like, a modified version of the actual Norton Commando isolastic engine mounting. So we're trying to do away with some of the vibrations that you normally get with a vertical twin, an inbuilt problem that's always there. So we've picked up on the Norton idea, or these people did many years ago. We've actually resurrected the machine, if you like. BSA will manufacture the main frame. We are responsible for producing the actual bodywork to add to this. Now, the thought behind it is that a lot of people want to do something different. A lot of people are riding around on very ordinary 650 Yamahas, some in very poor condition. So what they're able to do is use their machine, or buy a cheap one as a donor, and then you can dismantle your machine, do any extras you want in the way of reconditioning the engine or whatever, and you basically buy the chassis kit and add most of what you see onto it to turn into something different.
And turn your old wreck into a beautiful piece of...
basically gives it another lease of life.
Fantastic. So the future of the XS650 is it's there. There is one.
Yeah, I mean, they've always been very popular with people who want to turn them into something different. They're very easy and simple machines to work on, whether you want to, as I said earlier, to customize them, whether you want to turn them into a race replica or whatever. They're very simple, very much enables the individual to produce something different.
After the break, Wayne has a very different way of testing helmets.
Wayne's Warehouse this week is out on the road, and the reason for that is we're going to see how a helmet is tested before you put the thing on your head. For this particular demonstration we need some equipment. Excuse me just 1 second. So there we go. Stop laughing. What are you laughing at? This is my test equipment. Just check this out. I don't need these anymore. I've had enough of that cricket like that. Okay, so we're having a bit of a laugh and a bit of fooling around. But crash helmet testing is serious business. Now, I don't for a minute expect you to hit your own helmet with a cricket bat. Thought of it brings tears to my eyes anyway. No, the manufacturers have their own way of testing helmets, just like this. Well, I don't know about you, but I didn't notice a cricket bat being used in those tests. Not to my standards, I might add. But in actual fact, to the British standards. And that's what the manufacturers are required to do. Test helmets up to the level of the British standards. 66, 58, Type A and Type B. Big numbers mean a lot. What it does mean is a helmet manufacturer has to produce the helmet to meet the requirements that these guys have set for your safety. And it's a good set of safety rules. Why not have it? A lot of people don't comply to it. A lot of people will buy illegal helmets. Now, such as Paul, the ever faithful Paul, who takes a trip to France, and in France, somebody, damn blighter, stole his helmet, and he had to buy a helmet from a shop. He bought it in France. He then rode home with this on. It's available in this country, this helmet, but not quite the same. First of all, they have reflective pieces here, stickers on them. That's probably an added thing. It's actually probably a good thing. But it doesn't comply to the requirements. There may be things in there that they didn't need to do for the French market because the French testers don't require it. It also has no British standard stamping on it. Neither does the visor have a British standard stamp on it. So it is in actual fact illegal, albeit the same as the ones you can buy here. It's a sort of grey area, that. But there's an awful lot of helmets available and they do meet British standards of approval off the shelves, so why buy those odd ones? It's not worth it. This one, for example, just to show you, it's a Levior and it has a different sticker on that you may ordinarily see in the shop. In particular, a bike shop, it has an RAC sticker on. It also complies to the British standard approval level. It also applies to the ACU motorcycle sport level sticker. Well, everything. And you can buy a helmet like that, would you believe, for as little as 80 quid. So it's pretty good that you can buy a top standard level of helmet for 80 quid. The lower standard, such as on this AGV, which is only like a £50 helmet, is Type B approval. And it's easier to notice because it's a green label. And basically the only difference is that won't be tested to quite the same degree as these fancy things. And I don't mean just impact test. That's straps, that's visibility, position, weight, loads and loads of factors that we will never get a chance to see because it's too complicated for us ignoramuses. So if I just move a few of these little helmets here to move along, we're back down to a laser again. Not dissimilar to the one that I referred to with Paul, but it has got the British standard of approval. It has got the ACU racing approval. Another pointer, if you happen to go into a shop and you see a helmet with that on, but not one of those, it doesn't mean it won't test that standard. If it is a blue label, you can have one of them. Again, you might need to see a scrutineer at a race meeting. And truth is, you only need one of them if you're going racing, not just if you tear arsing around the roads. It's not required. A good standard label by the British Standard Board, 66, 58, Type A approval is all you need. Visors. They do have an approval level. They are specially designed, shatterproof, anti-scratch, all sorts. And it has a stamp here, BS 4110ZA. And that is the British Standard badge. So, we have seen it. I have done it occasionally, I do apologise. I have wore a black visor. It is illegal. Don't try and convince yourself that it is legal. There is grey areas, but it's very, very simple. If a visor hasn't got a British Standard stamp on it, it isn't to be used. So you can have a near black visor, like that, a tinted one. That can be used daytime use only. So as soon as lighting up time occurs, and that's always in your local newspapers, CFAX, wherever, that time, from that point onwards, it's illegal to use a tinted visor, even though it's got a British Standard of approval on. And then finally, something as sexy as that, a mirrored visor, again illegal. Although this particular visor, when you look through it from within your helmet, doesn't have a lot of tinting. It's not that particularly dark. That's not the point. It's illegal, it's not approved, don't wear it. And it's not just PC plod who may well do you and give you some points and slap your wrists and whatever. The fact is, if you make a claim on your insurance, having had an incident, God forbid, and you've smacked your bike up, you've damaged yourself, you've damaged somebody else, and you are making a claim of a fair few quid, if they happen to find out that you had an illegal visor or a non-approved crash helmet, I'm afraid they'll probably turn around and say, hard lines, cocker, we're not paying out. It's as simple as that. Anyway, it's drizzling a little bit here, but I could get another over in, so if you just excuse me, time to hit a few more helmets.
On Two Wheels next week, Wayne visits a paint shop and explains how to turn an ordinary looking helmet into a work of art.